Hello, and welcome to my digital storytelling video about creating openly diverse classrooms. Diversity, inclusion, and celebrating what makes each student unique is something that I am very passionate about personally, and I fully intend to work every day in my own classroom to create a safe, welcoming environment for all of my students. During this video, I'm going to give some pointers to teachers about the importance of creating supportive classrooms for students of all backgrounds. Students of color make up more than half of the student population, but teachers of color only account for 18% of the workforce. This means that most students of color can go through their entire school career having only one or two teachers who look like them, if any. This is very, very damaging for students of color. Imagine that the person responsible for teaching you the things that will follow you for the rest of your life and the skills that are going to make or break you as a successful adult not only doesn't share the same values, culture, and background as you, but also doesn't look anything like you. This shows students of color that the people in power around them look nothing like them. Since white teachers can't change the fact that they're white, they have to instead concentrate on creating a classroom environment that is above all safe for every child. Students need to know that regardless of their standardized test scores, they're loved and their perspectives are valued. And they need a safe space where they can talk about things that are important to them and things that are difficult to talk about. This might seem simple, you just love all of your students, but white people in general are raised in a society that consistently devalues people of color, and it embeds stereotypes inside of us from a very young age that we may not even know we have. So as a teacher, what can you do? First, make sure that you're willing to address race and important racial issues within your classroom. Not talking about these things makes students of color feel less valued, and you can learn as much from your students as they can from you, if not more. Second, you need to have high expectations for every single student. If a student is not performing up to standards, figure out why before you think about punishing the student. If a student isn't turning in their homework, find out if something's happening at home. There's usually an underlying cause to their issues. Also, include text in your classroom that students of color can see themselves in and that reflect their experiences. The characters should look like them. Sometimes you also need to step back. You can bring in people from the outside to talk and teach to students when you realize that you're not the best person to do it. If you feel like you don't know enough about something to talk to your students about it, bring in an outsider who does know. It's also really important to teach white students to recognize their own privilege and to think critically about the issues of race and stereotyping. Share what gets left out of the history textbooks and have your white students read books by people who don't look like them and whose experiences are not similar to theirs. As a teacher, it's most important to move past the fear of being called racist and to acknowledge your own privilege. It's okay to make mistakes, just enter the conversation as yourself. Also, very importantly, listen to learn when you're having these conversations with your students. Don't listen to respond or to defend your point of view. Lastly, there's the 7 C's of creating a diverse classroom. The first is co-generative dialogue, and that's where teachers and students identify and implement positive changes in the classroom. The second is co-teaching, and that's where kids teach classes alongside their peers, and they're as much as the expert as their teacher is in certain subjects. The third is cosmopolitanism, and that's where students feel responsible for their classroom and what happens in it, and that's much more likely to create a welcoming and supportive classroom community. The fourth is context. That's where the teacher needs to learn about the environment and the community that the students come from. Go out and drive around and see the neighborhoods your students live in, and then incorporate that in your own classroom. Next is content, and that means that you have to acknowledge that you don't have all the answers all of the time. And tell the kids where your expertise ends so that you can go into learning more together as a team. Sixth is competition, and this goes hand in hand with the next point. Competition means researching your own practice and working to do better. And lastly, curation goes along with competition, and that means taking video of yourself teaching and have the kids give you feedback on what they think that you can do better and what they like about your teaching. And collect artifacts on yourself to improve your teaching. These are all some really great ways to create a very welcoming classroom where every student from every background can feel safe and welcome and feel like they can share things with you and the rest of the class. And that's so important for classrooms. So I hope you've learned some great things to include in your own classrooms. Thanks.